So, I have already mentioned regarding what material you will be studying, right? So, I just, in the first class itself, I want to tell you that how will be the modus operandi of the class, how would I go. So, what I'll do, I'll be taking one topic, and then we'll also look into the previous year's questions paper from that topic, or else some sample questions, so that you will get an idea. We'll try to do each topic from both prelims and mains perspective. What is there in the mains, definitely we'll be doing, but some topic from where the mains question has not come, we will do some sample question on that, right? And also I want you guys from the very beginning of the class, see, I have told you about the 3-step formula, isn't it? Without that, it's not going to be effective. All of you want to clear the exam, right? You are here with the intention to clear the exam, not just attending the classes, isn't it? How many of you are here that you just want to attend and want to gain knowledge? None of you? Your intention is to crack the examination, isn't it? It is very much goal oriented. You are here, you have a specific goal to crack the UPSC examination. So, you have to be productive. You have to utilize your time very, very productively and very, very efficiently. I have talked in the classes that what we should concentrate on, minimum input, maximum output. So for that, there are certain strategy you have to adopt. And I have talked about the strategy. There's a 3-step formula I have spoke about in the last class that would be very, very beneficial. Always study and come, what has to be done in the class, attend the class regularly, go and revise. This is the 3-step formula you have to adopt. Okay? And be upfront, be interactive. It's extremely important to be interactive. Don't be a passive learner. Be active in the class. Try to, understand, and then if you have any doubt, try to clear then and there. It's not like that you can't clear afterwards. You can clear afterwards also, but it is very important to be interactive and very important to be active in the class. So it will be challenging for me also. See, if you don't ask any doubt, and if it is just like a one-way kind of monologue, I'll be just talking, it's like monologue kind of, the class won't be very useful. It won't be very productive. It should be more discussion based. So you have to be active participant. And it will be very, very challenging for me also. Yes, students are putting, questions to me. I am trying to answer them. Otherwise, the class will be just like, one way, just it's going one way. It should be two-way traffic, isn't it? It's not one way. So, and for that, what you have to do? You have to study and come. You have to be well prepared. You have to do some your, homework. Don't come to the class, okay, today I'm just going, we'll just listen to the lecture, what madam is giving or what sir is giving the lecture. This is not what maybe you would have been doing in your school days, but this is not schools or college days. This is a competitive examination. Okay, so how will, I have mentioned already what you have to study, just a little bit, again I'll mention. First, you go with NCRT. Along with that, you can study Lakshmikant also. You have, the classes will be initially for 2 hours. Then you have the entire day. Aram se you can study whatever has been done in the class, and also for the next class you can prepare and come. So you go with the NCRT. You can start with the 11th directly. Indian Constitution at Work. Indian Constitution at Work. This book, along with Lakshmikant, relevant topic. Whatever I'll be doing in the class, those relevant topic, please study and come. I'll be telling that what I'll be doing in the next chapter. And if it is not there in Lakshmikant, neither in the NCRT books, then okay, fine, you can try to find it on the internet, right? So please do your homework and come. No, it's not enough for the class purpose, as of now with the class purpose, then you have to know the background also. I told you 6 to 12th you have to study. Once you need to study, then what I told you, you have to give more concentration. See, graded concentration. 6 to 8, at least one reading, okay, just basic understanding. Then 9th, 10th, this book maybe, you know, you may have to study two times or 3 times, because the basics fundamentals are there. Or maybe one time, it all depends, you know, how well you understand. Maybe just one time you will read and you will understand what is the basics there in the constitution, what is there in the what is democracy and all. Those things you will come to know from 9th and 10th book. Then the repetition is also there in the 11th and 12th. Little bit more, they have more described it. ठीक है? 9th and 10th, whatever is there, the topic, it is theoretical aspect. Application you will study in the 11th class. Okay. Then 11th and 12th, you may have to read more number of times. And in 11th and 12th book also, it is this book from where, you know, the maximum number of the questions will be coming. But it's not like I should not read any other book. Because as I told you, NCERT is very good for your mains. Why? Because for your mains, you have to write answers. And when you have to write the answers, your concept has to be very, very clear. Isn't it? You should know the various terms. Right. So for mains, NCERT is very, very important. It's improves your answer writing skill, because you know the concept very well, and lot of examples are also there. So that is how you read 11th and 12th. But this book, as I told you, this will be the major book. Maybe 3-4 times you will have to study 11th class Indian Constitution at work. So this is how the graded preparation, right? 6 to 8, one time ek baar pad liya thoda, okay, I got some idea. Then again 9th, 10th I studied, I got some idea. 11th class, there is one book called, it's a theory basically, political theory. So various concepts they have discussed. What is equality? What is freedom? What is citizenship? Isn't it? What are rights? So you will come to know the theoretical aspect, which is also very important, which is not given in the Lakshmikant. So 11th class, there are 2 books. One is the political theory and another is your Indian Constitution at work. So obviously this book is the application of the political theory. So before knowing the application, you should know little bit theory also. What is rights? If somebody asks you, what is rights? Define rights. What is equality? What is the difference between equality and equity? You will not get by reading Lakshmikant alone. You won't understand the various terminology. I am telling you. So you can clear your prelims. You can clear your mains also by reading mere Lakshmikant. But then to have even more good understanding, you should read the basics book. Okay, so this is how you have to study. And anyway, you know, the mentor will be available to guide you. You can bring the book. If you are facing any kind of trouble, any issues related to your preparation, anything. And otherwise also, you know, this exam, it is very, very demanding. We have to accept it. It's very demanding. Why? As I told you, the competition is very tough. But then with a proper systematic strategy, things will become easier. It has to be go in a proper systematic way. Anything, if you do in a proper systematic way, things become easier or not. So same is for the UPSC. You have to adopt a proper strategy. So we should know which book I have to study, which I have to give more emphasis, and that you will come to know again by looking at the PYQ, previous year questions paper. But before understanding what is given in the PYQ, you have to go with the basics, right? Then only you will know. Otherwise, you will not be able to understand what is PYQ and all. What is the questions given, from where the question has come. How will you know if you have not read the book? Right? So this, what you can do is that you can divide your time. This book, though, you have to read it along with Lakshmikant. Also, you read it. At the same time, whatever the time you have, the extra time, you can start with the 6th. Okay. So, okay, ma'am is teaching this topic. I should read this topic from this NCRT and also Lakshmikant. Apart from that, I will have more number of extra time. I will start with the 6th. Like that, you have to study. ठीक है, every day 1 or 2 hours I will complete 6 to 12th, right? And 1 hour every day I will give whatever the topic has to be taught in the class. I will read it from this book and also from Lakshmikant. ठीक है? Apart from whatever time is left, I will start doing this. Okay, so this is how you have to study. This method you should adopt for every subject, because classes will be 2 or 3 hours maximum. As of now, we'll give you 2 hours classes, and then it may go to 3 hours classes. So you'll have enough of time, isn't it or not? You'll have enough of time. So study well, revise well. All right. I hope you understood till here. You got the idea? So we'll start with, see, on Friday we have discussed the syllabus of the subject. GS paper 2 we have already discussed. So we will start with the polity and constitution aspect. And in that today we are starting with constitution. So before what is constitutions and all, we should know what is constitution. We also need to understand why constitution is needed. Again, this thing is not given in Lakshmikant. It is given in your NCRT. So you have to read, you should read. Because people may ask you, what is constitution? Okay, you will define the constitution. But then why it is needed? If you have not read this book, probably you will not be in a position to answer why constitution is required. So almost every country of the world, they have constitution, either written or unwritten. What is the purpose of constitution? Yes, it is a set of rules, right? Which help, it is a framework. It is a framework, legal framework, right? It is a legal framework which will guide the authority to how to govern the country. Who has the power, who has the authority, right? To do what, how the power is distributed or how the power is allocated, who is authorized to do what. So we have executive, we have legislature, we have judiciary. There are 3 organs of the state, right? So let's understand. So, and in the meantime, we'll also go with the various terminology, like what is state, what do we mean by state. State has 2 connotations. One is state as a unit of federation. Like India is a federal country, and the states like provinces. Karnataka, earlier they were known as provinces, now it is known as state. Karnataka state, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, these all are states. They are unit of federal country, right? They are the unit of federal country. That is what the meaning of state. Another meaning of state is what? Nation, country, authority. In this manner also we define state. Okay, so whenever I'll use the term state, you should know in what context I am using. Like when I say the state has 3 organs, 3 organs of the state, means what? Yes, 3 organs of state: legislature, executive, judiciary. All these things we will define. What is executive, what is judiciary, what is legislature, all the terms will be defining. So when I say three organs of the state means legislature, executive and judiciary. When I say which state has the highest population, then this, right? So you should know in what context the term state is being used, okay? So we'll see in this today's topic why the constitution needed, what is constitution, what are its function, how does it relate to our daily existence, right? So what is constitution, tell me, how do you define? Yes, you can just write it down, please write it down. What is constitution? It is the fundamental and organic law. What is constitution? What is, we are seeing what is constitution. So it is the fundamental and organic law. It is the fundamental and organic law of a nation, establishing the conception, character and organization. Establishing the conception, character and organization. Establishing the conception, character and organization. So what is constitution? It is the fundamental and organic law of a nation, establishing conception, character and organization of its government, right? Of its government, as well as prescribing the extent of sovereign power, as well as prescribing the extent of difficult for me. Okay. So constitution. Constitution is the, what we have seen? Yes. It is the fundamental and organic law of the nation which establishes conception, character and organization of the government, as well as prescribing the extent of its sovereign power. Sovereign power and the manner of its exercise, and the manner of its exercise. The manner of its exercise. The Constitution also reflects faith and aspiration of its people. It is the supreme law of the land. It is the supreme law of the land. It is the supreme law of the land. And enjoy special legal sanctity. And it enjoys what? It enjoys special legal sanctity. It enjoys a special legal sanctity. All other laws to be legally valid. All other laws to be legally valid, must conform to the Constitution. All other law all other laws and even customs, all other laws and customs to be legally valid must conform to the Constitution. Okay. So let's look it back. What is Constitution? It is the fundamental and organic law of the nation, which establishes the conception, character and organization of its government, as well as it prescribes the extent of its sovereign power and the manner of its exercise. It is the supreme law of the, it also reflects the faith and aspirations of the people, and it is the supreme law of the land. It enjoys legal sanctity. All other laws and customs to be legally valid must conform to the constitutions. So now let's break it down and understand. So it is saying the fundamental and organic law. What do you mean by fundamental? Tell me. What do you mean by fundamental? Fundamental means something which is very basics. Something which is very basic and very important. Isn't it? Fundamental means what? Something which is very basic and very important, without which you can't do. It is a very basic and very important law. Then secondly, it is talking about organic law. That constitution is an organic law. What do you mean by organic? Organic means constitution is a living document. Constitution is a living document. It is not a static document. Okay. It's not like, okay, fine, constitution was written in 1950, right? The 1926 January 1950, it came into force. So it means obviously what written in 1950, can it be valid in 2025 in the new century? If it is a static document, can it be valid? No. So that's why Constitution is a living document. It is not a static document what is written in 1950. Constitution, there is a provision in the Constitution itself to adapt to the changes, right? Living things are what? Those who can adapt to the changes. Otherwise, they will die. If a constitution also do not adapt to the changes, will the constitution remain valid? No. So there has to be certain provision in the constitution itself that will make the constitution a living document, not a static document. So what is that provision? Tell me how the constitution is a living document. How can it adapt? Through the changes, right? It can change. It can make changes in the constitution. How will it make changes? How it will make changes? Through amendments. So there is a provision in the constitution, article 368. Article 368 that will if the constitutions requires any kind of changes, then by following the method mentioned under Article 368, amendment in the constitution can be brought, right? Amendment in the constitution can be brought. We can break the changes so that the constitution can adapt to the changing time and changing need. So we had made amendment or not? Total as of now 106 amendment has been done. So that reflects that the constitution is not a static document, but it is a living document, right? Because anything which is organic means what? It has life, isn't it? And living beings, they grow, they change, isn't it or not? So that's why constitution is not a static document. We say that our constitution it's a organic. It's organic in nature. It can change. It can change to the requirement. It can adapt to the changes, and that's the reason our constitutional father or our founding fathers, those who have made this constitution, they included the provision of Article 368 in the constitution so that we can make changes in the constitution, right? Understood? It is fundamental and organic law of the nation which establishes conception, character and organization of the government. So it is, see, it is the, since constitution is the basic and fundamental law, it is the constitutions which tells us that what kind of government we want. What is the conception? So we have conceived a democratic government. We have conceived what? A democratic government. We have conceived a sovereign government, right? We have conceived, later on secularism was added, right? Later on secular was also added. We have conceived a republican form of government. Now all these terms we will be doing when we'll do the preamble, okay? So that is what the conception we conceived. We were under the British, and then we wanted a constitution, we wanted a system of government which is democratic, which is welfare oriented. We have conceived a what? Welfare oriented government, not a police government. Police government means where the government is not concerned about the welfare of the people. They are only there to maintain the regulatory function like collection of revenue, maintenance of law and order. That's all. Like British government was during that time, it was a police state. Police, you know, police. Regulatory government, that's all, not a welfare. They were not worried about the people, welfare of the people. They were simply worried about how to collect the revenue, how to extract revenue, how to collect taxes from the people and maintaining law and order. If there is any kind of problem, they will simply use coercive method. Coercive method means forceful. They will simply put the people in jail. They won't even listen. There was no right to protest. If people were protesting, see Jallianwala Bagh tragedy, you know, people were protesting, what happened? They were killed. They were killed. Or else they will be put in the jail. But in the democracy, is it like that? If the people are protesting? No, we have the right to protest, isn't it? In a democratic form of government, we have right to protest, but in a legal manner, not in a violent manner. Legal manner, you can peaceful protest is allowed. Nobody can jail you for peaceful protest, isn't it? So that is what type of government we want. We want a democratic government, we want a welfare oriented government, we want a republican form of government. This is what we have conceived. Character of the government. So we have what? Parliamentary form of government, isn't it or not? There are presidential form of government, there are parliamentary form of government. See, all these terms, whatever I am talking, as we move in the class further, these all terms you will get to know. All the terms, whatever I am talking about, what is presidential, what is parliamentary, we will do in detail what is parliamentary form of government, what is presidential and all. So we have adopted what? What is the character of our government? Parliamentary form of government. And we are federal form of government. Federal form of government means where the power is distributed between center and state. Right? So that is what the character of our government. Then organization. How the government is being organized. On what lines it has been organized. Who has what power. Right? Who has what power. Organization of the government and also prescribing the sovereign power. Like who will utilize how much power. Right? So as I have mentioned that the government or you can say the state, many a time government also we use, it has three organs: legislature, executive and judiciary. Right? We have three organs: legislature, executive and judiciary. So the power is being kind of distributed among them. Ki who will use what? We know that the executive head, who is the executive head? It is the president, right? So from where do you come to know all these things? From the constitution. That every executive action will be taken in the name of the president. Any bill, any laws will become active only with the presidential sign. Wait, Article 53, that every executive action will be taken in the name of the president. At the same time, Article 74. Article 74 is that the president has to act on the aid and advice of Council of Minister headed by Prime Minister. Right? So it is not that president alone is taking whatever decision. President is taking on the advice of Council of Minister. Right? So from constitution you will come to know all these things. When you read the constitution you will come to know all these things. So if you read just Article 53 you will feel that, oh, president is all powerful. He has all the power because all the executive action after all it is taken in his name. Isn't it? But then you have to read Article 53 with Article 54. That 74, sorry. That the executive action, whatever the president takes, it has to be on the aid and advice of Council of Minister headed by Prime Minister. So real executive is your Council of Minister headed by Prime Minister. This is the real executive. And president is your nominal executive, nominal or ceremonial executive. All these things, you will become more and more clear as we progress in the class. What is ceremonial, what is nominal, all these things we will be doing. So the real power lies in the hand of the Council of Ministers, because they are the one who are directly elected by the people, right? And they have to be accountable. Then Article 75 talks about Article 75 that they have to be accountable to whom? Accountable to the Lok Sabha, lower house of the parliament, right? So it is not like Council of Minister headed by Prime Minister is again all powerful. So there are a lot of checks and balances, isn't it or not? President power is not an all powerful. He has to act on the advice of Council of Minister. Then it is not that Council of Minister or the Prime Minister, they are supreme. Their power is checked by whom? The Parliament. They have to be accountable. So there are a lot of accountability tools like question hours, discussions, debate in the Parliament. Then the Parliament has if the Parliament feel that no, this government is not working at all well, they can pass a no confidence motion. And the government is gone. Right. So the power of the Council of Minister or the Prime Minister is checked by whom? By the Parliament, Lok Sabha particularly. They are accountable to the lower house of the Parliament. So see, in prelims, we have to be very, very specific. If the questions they ask, the executive is accountable to whom? To the Parliament, to the Lok Sabha, to the Rajya Sabha, to the President. What will you mark the answer? What will you mark the answer? No, Lok Sabha. To the lower house of the Parliament. If the option is not given Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, then okay, fine, Parliament we will mark. But when the option is given Parliament, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha to the President, then Lok Sabha. You have to tick on the Lok Sabha. Yes, till here I hope you got some clarity. Yes? Yes, so this is what we were doing. Organization of the government, the sovereign power and the manner of its exercise. So not only tells that who is having what power, but also how the power will be exercised, right? So how the power is exercised? That the president, all the executive action in the name of the president, Article 53, then Article 74, that the president has to act on the aid and advice of the Council of Minister, and then Article 75, the Council of Minister along with the Prime Minister, they are accountable or responsible to the lower house of the Parliament, right? So now we know the entire loop, how the power will be exercised. It's not like the president alone can, whatever he wants he will do, isn't it? He has to act on the advice of the Council of Ministers, right? So the manner in which the power is exercised, that is also mentioned in the Constitution. The Constitution further also reflects what? Faith and aspirations of the people. What does it mean? So see, our Constitution is a democratic Constitution, right? It is a written Constitution. At the same time, it is a democratic Constitution. It is not like a Constitution, like even you see, for example, Saudi Arabia and all, they are a what? Monarchical kingdom, isn't it? Even they have the Constitution, but it is not democratic in nature, isn't it or not? It is in the monarchy, they are not responsible to the people because there is no system of election or so. And even if there is a system of election, everything is fixed. But in our case, there is a proper system of election, right? And it is conducted by a independent body called Election Commission of India. So that's why we are a truly democratic country. See, just conducting election does not make any country democratic, right? Because election was held in Myanmar. You know how in Myanmar there is a military rule there, isn't it or not? So the election will happen there. But what will be the result? It will be decided by the military, right? They are not free, fair. Even in Pakistan, the elections are there. But are they truly functioning democracy? No. And even if they get, results, proper results, even after that, it is totally influenced by the military. So they are not truly democratic. Even if Pakistan says that we are democracy, they are not truly functioning democracy. India, we are a truly functioning democracy where the election has been successfully conducted and where we have seen the winning party, they can even lose in the, sorry, those party in the power, they have tendency to lose. Like currently, you know, this election happened in Delhi. So Aam Aadmi was there already for 2-3 terms. This time they lost, isn't it? So that is what the integrity of election, where the party which is in power, even they can lose. If the same party is continuously winning in every election, in every term, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, we will give you the example that also later on when we'll do democracy. So that is not a true democracy. True democracy where the election is being conducted by a very independent, fair body, and where there is a chance of opposition party also coming to the rule, and the existing party, they can lose, right? If the same party is continuously for 20 years, 30 years, they are, you know, winning, that is not a true democracy, isn't it? Because otherwise what, they will become complacent. Anyway, you know, we are going to win. They will not work for the people. But if they know that, you know, we can lose, then they will seriously work for the people. They will please the people. Right? So, the constitution also reflects the faith and aspirations of the people. Now, you see, we were under the British system. And in the British system, there was no democracy. People had no liberty. There was no civil liberties. Civil liberty means right, freedom of expression, freedom of speech and expression, freedom of assemble, all these. That is what called civil liberties. Right to peacefully protest, these all rights were not given. So obviously we wanted a system, since we have seen the very exploitative nature of the British rule, which was very authoritarian in nature. People wanted a government, people wanted a system where there is a protection of civil liberties, right? So there was certain faith and aspiration of the people. What were those things? Tell me. Faith and aspirations of the people. Faith and aspiration of the people. We want justice. We want liberty. We want equality. We want fraternity to maintain the unity and integrity of the nation, right? Because India, you see, there was being a very diverse country. There has been huge number of people from different background, different languages, different race. They are coexisting together, right? So definitely, and also there is a system of caste problems also in India. So we wanted a system which could be a just, which can provide justice to the poor, to the weak, to the vulnerable, right? We wanted all liberty, liberty of thought, expression, isn't it? Liberty to worship, to follow our religion. Equality. We all want equality of status. Everybody should have the same status. There is no rich status, there is no poor status, there is no caste system, right? Everybody is equal. Because, you know, before the state came into being, the concept of state, little bit I'll talk about here, the concept of state. You see what happened earlier, when there was a state of nature, that is called as state of nature. When there was a state of nature, what happened? What do you mean by state of nature? Where there is no government. There is no government, there is no authority. So it will be like a what? It will be like a jungle. Will it be like a jungle or not? Whosoever is the powerful, they will pounce upon the weaker people. Like in a forest, who is the king of jungle? The most powerful lion. Lion, because why lion? Because lion is the powerful. Isn't it or not? That's why king of jungle we say lion, because lion is the most powerful. And what about the deer, rabbit and all these animals? Cow, buffalo, deer and all. So if the lion wants to kill them for their food, they will kill. Isn't it? And nobody can protect the deer. Can anybody, is there any law to protect the deer? No. So whosoever is the powerful, they will rule. And there is no protection for the weaker. That is called state of nature. So that is how when people were evolving, we were in a state of nature, right? Hunting, gathering and all. We were like a nomadic people, hunters and gatherers. Slowly when we settled and people started acquiring, the property also. When people started settling, they started domestication, agriculture, and at one place they started settling. And they had some property also, like, okay, fine, this is my area, this is my field where I grow the crops, this belongs to me, this is my property. So when the concept of property came, even now property is a very difficult issue or not? Property is always creator of problems, isn't it or not? Even in the families. So that's why there has to be certain laws, proper laws. So people now they settled and then they wanted a system of government now. They thought that, obviously those who are powerful, they will grab more land and they will try to acquire the properties of other also. Earlier people were expanding their horizon. Oh, this is my property, I will take it. Some less powerful, they will evict from that property and they'll also acquire that property of the weaker person. Like, so the people wanted some kind of protection of their life and property. They wanted to protect their life from the powerful people and also they wanted to protect their property. So nobody should snatch away their property. Then there was a requirement of some kind of central authority who will govern, and the government will be as per the law. As per the law. Then people, that is called social contract. That is called social contract. So in this social contract, what happened? People, they formed some kind of government. They told, okay, fine, we are ready to be governed by law. And whom they gave the authority to make law? Some form of legislature, some form of assembly, right? Where people will choose the representative. People will choose the representative or people will directly participate in that assembly. And they will together, they will discuss and they will come to make one law. And the law will be valid for everyone. Law will be valid for everyone. So that is how, the system of state came into being. Some form of authority came into being. Earlier it was a jungle kind of, jungle Raj, nomadic people, hunters and gatherers. You will study in Neolithic period, Paleolithic, Stone Age. And then in this valley civilization you will study where some form of government started coming into being. And then again Aryans, Vedic period, all this you will study. And you will see how the government or system came into being. Right? So this is how the state came into being. Why the state came into being? Basically, to protect the people from exploitation, especially the weaker people. So there was a law, okay, it will be for everyone, and everybody, they have to perform their duty as per the law. And for that, obviously, people had to give up some rights also, isn't it? In a jungle, there is no one to control you, isn't it? You are a free person. You are a free person unless and until some powerful person pounced upon you. Otherwise, you are a free person, right? There is no law. Then people also give up some of their rights. What rights? Now you see, people who, earn, they earn more money. They are taxed or not? They are taxed. People, there is a income tax or not? There is an income tax, there is a direct tax, there is indirect tax. These taxations are there. People can't say, no, I will not give tax. Can they say? So, since you are going to get benefited from the state, you have to pay tax, otherwise how the state will run? How the government will run? The government will run only on the basis of, the taxes you provide, because we are providing you the services, we are providing you roads, we are providing you water supply, we are providing you electricity supply, we are providing you security, isn't it or not? So for those things, how will you manage the resources? From you guys only we will take, isn't it? So you have to pay tax for that. So liberty always comes with some cost. Liberty and protection. Protection comes with cost or not? So people gave up some of their rights. Means now, okay, fine, whatever they were producing, some part they give it to the state as a protection. Okay, the state will protect us, we are giving it to the state. So earlier it was in the manner of agriculture produce and all. Now it is in the form of money. We are paying the tax, isn't it or not? So why all this happened? To make the society justice, liberty and equality, where the poor and weak will be protected. They will also have protection. It's not like they will not be protected. So now you have seen lot of schemes are there for poor, lot of schemes for women, lot of schemes for children, isn't it? Because the state need to protect them. So you got the concept. Why? What is the originator of the concept of state? When we started a settled life, we wanted some kind of protection, and on that basis, that is the basis of social contract theory, and in which the state came into being. People gave up certain of their rights, and the state came, which started governing us. And state made law. State made law, and it will be equally applicable to everyone. And where the poor, the weaker section also, they will be protected. It's not only the rich, but even poor section will be protected. The rich will be given what? Security. Their right, their property is protected, isn't it? They can also aram se sleep. Okay, nobody is taking my property is protected, isn't it? Poor people, we have lot of schemes for the poor people. Food Security Act, we have, recently the Karnataka government has launched so many schemes for the upliftment of the poor and vulnerable section of society, isn't it? So I hope you understood till here what is the faith and aspiration of people, and in that context I have also explained the origination of the state, right? Okay, so we had, okay, till here faith and aspiration. It is the supreme law of the land. Supreme law of the land means constitution is a supreme law of the land. What does it mean? When we say constitution is the supreme law of the land and has special legal sanctity, special legal sanctity. What does it mean? See, there are two types of laws. There are two types of laws. Okay. One is your constitutional law. Another is your ordinary law. One is your constitutional law and other is your ordinary law. And third, you can say customs and traditions. So constitution law, it is the constitution itself. Whatever is given in the constitution, that is the constitutional law, right? And special body was created to frame the constitution. That is the Constituent Assembly was created, which has framed the constitution for the India. Now, who has been given the right to protect the constitution or guard the constitution? Tell me. It is the Supreme Court, right? Supreme Court of India is the guarantor of fundamental rights and also it is the protection of the constitution, isn't it? Guarantor of Supreme Court, it is the one which will see that constitution law is always protected. Now it is saying that the constitution has special legal sanctity and it is the supreme law of the land, means the ordinary law and any custom, they should be subservient to the constitutional law, means constitutional law will be at the top. Every ordinary law or any customs to be valid, if they have to be valid, they must conform to whom? To the constitution. Means any customs, any ordinary law, they cannot go against constitution. If they go against the constitution, what will happen? They can be declared what? Ultra virus. They will be declared as ultra virus. Ultra virus. What does it mean? Not virus. Virus. V-I-R-E-S. What does it mean? It means that null and void. It can be, means it is against the constitution. Any ordinary law, if they are going against the constitution, it can be declared ultra virus, means they are not conforming to the constitution, they are against the constitution, hence it should be null and void. Null and void means they will be struck down. It will be struck down by the constitution, by the Supreme Court. Right? So, constitution is the supreme law of the land. It means it has been given topmost position and it has the special legal sanctity, means any law, any customs, not only law you see, even customs, if they are not aligning, with the constitution, it will be declared null and void. So, whatever the laws made by the parliament, that is called the ordinary law. Law made by the parliament, they are called the ordinary law. Now this ordinary law, whatever the law is made, they have to see, the Supreme Court will see whether this law is properly going with the line of constitution or not. If they are not, they can be declared null and void. Right? So that is what the significance of the constitution. It is the supreme law of the land. And not only law made by the parliament, even the customs we follow. Like for example, recently, I mean, it has happened 2-3 years, where the Supreme Court has declared in this Sabrimala case, that even women of all age group, now they will be allowed to visit Sabrimala. Now Sabrimala case, you know, what was the custom? The custom is that women of particular group, they cannot visit, right? Those who are menstruating in that period, fertile period, you will not be able to visit the temple. That is what the custom is. But the custom is now declared as illegal or is invalid by the Supreme Court. And because Supreme Court said that it goes against the fundamental rights. Right to equality is violated. Right to equality means everybody is equal in the eye of law, isn't it? So why are you making a discriminatory practices that women of particular age group, you are barring them? See, Sabrimala temple, see, I have not visited personally, but then it is in a place where it is not easy to reach there, isn't it? You have to climb and go, isn't it? As far I know. So you see, children, can they climb and go? Elderly people, can they climb and go? When women are most productive, that time only you are barring them, you can't go. Elderly people, it is so difficult for them. Means a woman has to wait to become elderly to visit Sabrimala temple. What if she die and there is a wish in her that, you know, I want to visit Sabrimala temple? And how will you segregate who is in a menstruating period, who is not, who has already the now menopause is happening even at 40 years, isn't it? So how will you determine that who is in the fertile age and who is not? So it is very arbitrary, it is very discriminatory practices. It amounts to practicing untouchability among women, isn't it? Like one particular women group who are fertile, you are treating them as an untouchables, isn't it? You are not allowing them to visit the temple. So it is discriminatory. So this Sabrimala case, then there is one Sunny temple in Maharashtra, Sunny Singh base temple, something like that in Maharashtra. Even there women were not allowed. But now Supreme Court said it's allowed. So any customs which are derogatory, which are unequal, which projects inequality, discrimination, that should also be invalid. So now you can understand what is the power of the Constitution, isn't it or not? That's why the Constitution is the supreme law of the land and it enjoys special legal sanctity, and all other laws and customs to be valid must conform to the Constitution or else they can be declared null and void. And who will do it? It is the Supreme Court. They are the guarantor, right? They are the protector of the Constitution. Along with the Supreme Court, it is the President. President also, what is the duty of the President? To protect the Constitution. Right? It is the duty of the President because he is the executive head. He is the executive head of the nation. It is his duty to protect the Constitution. I hope, yeah, so till now I hope you understood what is Constitution and all. So now let's get back to this part, that why do we need Constitution and what are its functions. So Constitution, it is the fundamental organic law of the nation which provides the conceptions, character, organizations of the government, its sovereign power and how the power will be exercised. It also talks about the faith and aspirations of the people, isn't it? And then it is the supreme law of the land which enjoys some special legal sanctity. All other laws, all other customs to be legally valid must conform to the Constitution. So this is how we have defined the Constitution. what are its function and how does it relates to our daily existence. So you see, India is a diverse country. There are rich people, there are poor people, there are mighty people, there are weak people. So obviously, and very, very diverse. Some may try to overpower the other people. Right? For example, majority people. In India, who are the majority people? Hindus people in terms of religion. They are the Hindus. So they may overpower the minorities people. So how the minority people will get protected? Or the rich people will try to overpower the poor people. You know, there will be a lot of exploitations and all. So for that, these things should not happen. The constitution is there, and this is what the function of the constitution, to provide set of basic rules. To provide set of basic rules for minimal coordination amongst the member of society. So if there is no rule, what will happen? It will become like a jungle or not. So that's why the constitution, the first function of the constitution is to provide certain basic rules. How should be your conduct? How people will coordinate among each other? What is their duties? Right? What is their duties? What are their rights? How they should conduct? They should, so every people, they have to conduct in such a manner that they are not creating problem for others. Like you want to listen loud music, okay fine, you listen to loud music, but then there is a regulation, right? People in the night, they want to sleep peacefully or not. So that's why there is a regulation that after 11 o'clock you can't enjoy loud music, isn't it or not? After 11 o'clock. So that's why the constitutions provide certain basic rules how the coordination will happen among the various member of the society. Then we have the majority minority issue also. So minorities are protected. It is Article 29 and 30 provides the minority rights. Apart from that, you have Article 25 to 28 of the Indian Constitution provides freedom of religion. You can follow your religion as you want. Isn't it? Nobody is going to obstruct you. Of course, if we are following such certain things which is inhuman, there will be regulation. Even in the name of religion, you can't follow everything, right? But then fine, you can practice. Nobody is, see, earlier there was, during the Mughal period, during the Delhi Sultanate period, there was forcible conversion, right? People were being converted to Islam during the Sultanate period and Mughal period, particularly the Delhi Sultanate period. And some of the rulers, again, those rulers who were very, very kind of fundamentalist means they were very extremist. They wanted people of other religion to follow their religion. So they were converting. Even during the British rule, there was missionaries, and even there was a lot of forcible conversion or conversion through money or allurement, isn't it? So such type of thing should not be there, right? So that's why now in a democratic system, you can aram se follow your religion, isn't it or not? Like as we have heard in Pakistan and all, theocratic state, particularly theocratic state, where there is the religious freedom is not like where there is a secularism. Secularism, there is more religious freedom, but theocratic state, there is not religious freedom. So we have a constitution which guarantees that nobody will be mistreated, nobody should be discriminated, and this is the basic framework, and within that law everybody has to function, and that law is for same for everyone, isn't it or not? The constitution is for everyone, everybody has to follow the constitution. That will lead to a some basic understanding among the members of society, and they will follow a proper systematic law. right? If there is any kind of problem, they will go, they will, where they will go? It is the, in the constitution it is mentioned you can approach court. If there is any problem, you approach court. By way of appeal, you can come to Supreme Court. And if your fundamental rights are violated, you can directly go to the High Court or Supreme Court. Okay. So all these things we come to know from the Constitution. Second is, the Constitution specify the decision making power. Who will make what decisions? Like we have already explained, Article 53, it says that it is the President who will be the executive head of the country. All the executive action will be taken in his name, right? But Article 74 says that the President has to act and advise on the Council of Ministers, headed by Prime Minister, right? So who is the decision making power? How the decision will be done? Then the law making power is given to whom? To the Parliament or to the state legislature, right? If there is any disputes, they will go to where? To the courts. They will go to the courts or not? So who will make the what decision? That is prescribed in the Constitution, right? Decision making authority. Then limitation on the power of the government. This is a very important function of the Constitution. Very, very important function of the Constitution. See, as I have talked about this social contract theory, and then I have also mentioned that how the government came into being. Now you have given some of your power to the government, and you are okay, fine, you said okay, fine. You make laws and you execute the laws for us, right? Then what will happen? The government, they have all the power. They are more powerful, right? They are powerful to make laws. They are powerful to execute those laws. So what if the government become authoritarian? There is a chance or not? Because it is said that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Lord Acton. There was one Lord Acton. What he said, power corrupts. Power corrupts. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. So if people have power, there is a tendency they will become corrupt and they may misutilize the power. They may misutilize the power. So that's why there has to be something to check the power of the government. Otherwise, the government can become arbitrary or not. Anybody who is speaking against the government, put it in the jail. Like during emergency, what happened? Authoritarian government misutilized its power. Anybody against the government, put it in the jail. Many people, they lost their life also during that time. They were being tortured. British government was what? Totally unconstitutional government. They had all the power and they made very arbitrary laws. Any place you can go, you can search without warrant. You can arrest the people. During Jallianwala Bagh tragedy happened, against the Rowlatt Act. Rowlatt Act was what? Very draconian law. Without warrant, you can search, siege and arrest the people. So the Constitution provides protection against arbitrary laws and arbitrary executive action. Limitation on the power of government means the government neither can make arbitrary law nor it can enforce, nor it can enforce any arbitrary law. The government cannot make any arbitrary law which is against the interest of the public, neither they can enforce that law. Enforce means they cannot execute such laws. So that is what the limitation means. Anything, if the government makes any laws or the parliament make any laws which is against the constitution, it will be strike down. Right. So that is what limitation on the power of the government. Government cannot act in an arbitrary manner. Government has to also work within the limit of the constitution. And it is very important. Otherwise, a democratic government can also become undemocratic. See, look at in Pakistan. They are saying we are democracy, but where is the democracy? Everything is controlled by the army. There is no proper, there is absolutely no functioning of the constitution there. Total breakdown of constitution. Isn't it? But in our case, see, we are following the, there was an aberration like emergency. It is said that blot on democracy. Emergency, internal emergency, we will come to that point also. In 1975, when it was imposed, that was called as internal emergency. During that time, the government did everything against the constitution. So there was a period at that time that the government behaved in a very authoritarian manner. Why this all happened again, you know? See, we can have the best of best constitution, but the functioning of the constitution depends on whom? People. So we as a citizen has to empower ourselves to see that everything works as per the constitution. If the citizens are not empowered, they are illiterate and they are not vigilant, then what will happen? The government may turn down the constitution as it happened during the emergency. But now it is difficult because people are now more aware. People are now more aware. At that time, people were not that aware. There was not so much of mass media, social media, and people were also not aware. Now it is difficult, you know, such kind of things, emergency kind of thing. So anyway, what is the purpose of the constitution? That it, one of the very important function of the constitution is that it provides limitation on the power of the government. And this is the most important function. Most important function. Limit the power of the government. The government cannot act in an arbitrary manner. They have to work within the limits of the constitution. Right? Then the constitution talks about the aspirations of the people. We want a society which provides us justice, equality, liberty, right? Equality, justice, liberty, freedom, right? Those things are mentioned in the preamble, isn't it? So that is why the function of, one of the important function of the constitution is to fulfill the aspiration of the people. So through various laws, various policies, like we have Anti-Untouchability Act, right? Means untouchability is prohibited, isn't it or not? So through that, the constitutions try to protect the people or not? And in that way, it is trying to create a equal society, prohibition of untouchability, prohibition of using title. You can't use title Raja, Maharaja, Dhiraja and all. Like earlier it was there or not? Like princess and all, prince and princess, and king. They were kings, they were prince, they were princess. Is there anything now like that? No, everybody is equal in the eye of law. So there is, you cannot use any title, hereditary title. Yes, achievement basis, like you have earned PhD through your hard effort, you are using the word doctor, right? Doctor so and so, or you have practiced, or you have done your medicine, you use doctor. You have become army personnel, and that is through, these all are merit based title, right? These title, if at all is there, these are valid title, but these are what? Merit based. You have got through your own hard work. It is not hereditary. Like somebody born in the royal family, they will become automatically prince and princess, Yuvraj and all, right? So now there is nothing like that. Nobody will be called as Yuvraj and Raja and Rani and all. Everybody is equal. Only merit-based titles are allowed. Non-merit, hereditary, no titles. Because everybody is equal in the eye of law. No discriminatory practices. Establishing identity of the people. See, one of the important function of the constitution is also to establish the identity of the people. So, we all are Indian or not? We all are? So, it is in the constitution, you have the citizenship mentioned, like those who are the citizen of India, and what will be their rights, what will be their duties. So, you get one identity. The constitution provides you the proper identity, and as an Indian citizen, you are free to move throughout the country, isn't it or not? In India, we have a freedom of movement, freedom of settlement, wherever we can go and settle. It's not like, somebody coming from North India, they won't be allowed in South India to settle. You can buy a property here, you can settle down here. People from South India, they can go to North India or East India or West India, wherever you want, you can move. There is a freedom of movement. Right? There are some exceptions. Anyway, we will do it when we will do the fundamental rights. Otherwise, you are free movement, free settlement. Whatever you want to have job, you can have job, profession, anyway, which are allowed. You can't be a thief. We will say, it's my right, I want to become a thief. Isn't it? So, legal profession, legal occupation, right? So, that gives you an identity that you belong to India, you are an Indian citizens, all of you have equal rights, you have equal duties, you have equal obligations, right? So, Aadhaar gives you an identity that you are an Indian, isn't it? So, some prelims questions we will see from this topic. I hope till here you got an idea. We have done constitutions, what is constitution and what is the function of constitution, how it helps in our daily existence. So, through these functions only, I hope you understood that why it is very, very useful for us. Otherwise, anybody can behave in an arbitrary manner, but the constitution provides some kind of limitation. Neither the government nor anybody, they cannot do any work which is against the constitution, right? So, like for example, people with disability, for example, people with disability. So, for them also proper lanes should be created, wheelchair facility should be provided, isn't it? So, it is what? This is the constitution which is guiding the parliament or the legislature to make laws on such thing. Isn't it? Because the people with disability, even they have the rights. Braille, those who are blind, for them Braille books should be there so that they can study well. So, it is why all this because of the constitution. The constitution provides you such kind of protection. Even those people who are disadvantaged, some scheme should be made for their upliftment. It is all mentioned in the DPSP, we will study, right, later on. So, some question you see, which one of the following statement best reflects the chief purpose of the constitution of a country? You tell me what it will be the answer. It was asked in 2023. So, we have the discussion, now you tell me the answer on the basis of the discussion we had. Sarath, you tell me. D. See, now only I think you are not listening properly then. What I said? Most important what I said. Isn't it or not? See, this is how you have to be very, very clear while reading. See, it determines the objective for the making of necessary law. Yes, it is correct. Which one of the following statement best reflects? Best. See, even this, it determines the objective for making law or not. DPSP. Then it enables the creation of political offices and government. That is also, we have Article 74, 75 and all. Then it defines and limits the power of the government. This also is there. It secures social justice, social equality, social security. See, everything is there. But best, what is the best? It is all, see, that is how you have to study very, very well, isn't it? We have just discussed. In spite of that, and that is why I was saying it is the most important. Didn't I say? I said or not? I said that limiting the power of the government is the most important function of the constitution. You see how attentive you have to be. Got it? Very attentive. You have to be very attentive while reading book and listening to the class. Got it? So answer is your C, not D. Otherwise, see, everything is done by the constitution. All the statements are correct actually. A, B, C, D, all are correct. But what is the best? It defines the limit of the government. That is the most important. Otherwise, what will happen? The government can become arbitrary in nature. They can function in an undemocratic manner. Even if you are a democracy, but in practice they are undemocratic, then what is the use? So it is defined. And who is the one who protects that? Who guarantees that everything is as per the constitution? It is the Supreme Court. Yeah, so that's all for this topic. Now we'll move it to the next topic, written and unwritten constitution. So I hope you got some clarity what is constitution, what is the function, why it is required, and then we have seen one prelims questions. Now let's see the constitution of the country. As I mentioned, almost all countries of the world have some form of constitution, either written or unwritten constitution. So what is written constitution, you tell me? What is written constitution? Something which is written, that is called written constitution, isn't it? Something which is not written, they are called unwritten constitution. So let's see the differences. You can, this way you can, write it down, written and unwritten. So the first point is what? Written and unwritten provisions are codified in a single legal document. Written constitution, they are codified. So in the Indian constitution, there is one document, one book in which you will find all the provisions. Like we know there are 25 parts of the constitution, isn't it? There are originally 395 article, but now it is some 465 or 448. I think they have increased 465 or something, 465, right? They have increased. So, but 390, so when you read the constitution, last article you will find 395 only. But there are a lot of additions has been done. Parts also originally 22, later now it is 25 parts. So it is there. When you open the constitution, it's a book in which the various provisions are there. They have mentioned article wise, they have mentioned schedule, how many schedules and what is the provisions of schedule. So in a single legal document it is codified. Unwritten constitution not codified in a legal document. Right, so it is codified. When I said codified means we have 22 parts. We know that it is 22 parts, 395 articles. Now it is 465 articles. We have 12 schedules. We have 12 schedules. Earlier it was 8 schedule, isn't it? Now it is 12 schedules. So it is there in a proper one book. Everything is contained in one book, that is called Samvidhan or Constitution, Constitution of India, right? So what is there in each part, that is properly described? Like part 1 of the Indian Constitution deals with union and states and its territories, isn't it? Part 2 deals with your citizenship. Part 3 of the Constitution deals with the fundamental rights. So like this it is properly codified. Whereas in the unwritten Constitution, what is the example of unwritten Constitution, you tell me? Most of the Constitution of the world, they are written, but few like United Kingdom and New Zealand. United Kingdom, New Zealand, they are unwritten Constitution. So it's not like they don't have any Constitution, but they are not in one document. So like in United Kingdom, some important laws like the Great Charter of 13th century AD, the Great Charter, it was made in 13th century AD, or also called as Magna Carta. It was also called as Magna Carta or the Great Charter. It was there in 13th century AD. Particularly it was in 12,015. It was written. This law was made in 12,015. You see, 13th century. So some of these kind of law. And what is this Magna Carta or the Great Charter? It includes the fundamental rights of the citizens of UK. It includes the fundamental rights of the citizens of UK. So similar, some laws, they are being treated as more important laws. There is treated as more important laws, and they are not codified in one document. So that's why they are called as unwritten. Whereas written Constitution, everything is written in a proper format, and in one book you just open, you will get everything. But that is not in that kind of where is unwritten Constitution. Though there are some laws which are more important, they are declared as a part of the Constitution, but they are not written in a formal structure. Got it? Example, New Zealand, UK. Second point, you see, second point, you see, supremacy of the Constitution. So wherever the written Constitution is there will be the supremacy. We have just discussed. We just discussed or not? There is a supremacy of the Constitution. All the laws, all the customs to be legally valid, they must to be valid, they must be conform to the Constitution. And see, no, here you see the Constitution is supreme and not the three organs of government or three organs of state. It is the Constitution which is supreme and not the three organs of the state, because they are the creator of the Constitution, isn't it? The three, legislature, executive, judiciary, was created by whom? By the Constitution, isn't it or not? So that's why it is the supremacy of the Constitution. All the three organs of the state or the three organs of the government, they must work within the boundary of the Constitution. There is separation of power. Like who will do what work. And this all has been assigned by whom? By the Constitution. These all are assigned by whom? That, okay, Parliament will make laws, executive will execute the law, judiciary will settle the dispute. Who has given this work? Constitution, right? So that's why Constitution is supreme and not the three organs of the government, because they are the created by the Constitution itself. Whereas in the unwritten Constitution, it is the Parliament who is supreme. Parliament is the most supreme there. They are the most powerful body. So it is the Parliament who can declare any law as, you know, okay, these are the part of the constitutional law, these are the part of ordinary law. It is the Parliament. And whenever they want to scrap that law, they can scrap that law. Whenever they want to make some changes, they can make such changes. There is nobody above Parliament in unwritten Constitution. Wherever there are unwritten Constitution, Parliament is supreme. There is no control over Parliament. Like in India, we have control, isn't it? Who controls that? In the name of the Constitution, it is the Supreme Court, right? So, Supreme Court has been given right by the Constitution itself, that you have to check that any law which against the Constitution, any government act which is against the Constitution, you have to scrap it, you have to strike it down, isn't it or not? But such things are not there in where unwritten Constitution is there. Parliament can bring any laws. Whenever they want to bring any amendments, they can bring the amendments. They want to change, they want to scrap, anything they can do it. Supreme Court has no power in such country. Supreme Court cannot nullify the act made by Parliament. But in India, they can nullify or not? They can nullify. If any law goes against the Constitution, it can be declared null and void by the Supreme Court. Isn't it or not? Any law made by the Parliament which transgresses the Constitution or goes against the Constitution can be nullified by the Supreme Court. Because we have a written Constitution. The provision is properly codified. But where there is unwritten Constitution, there is no proper codification. So how the Supreme Court will, you know, nullify? There is no provisions which are said that, yeah, these are the constitutions, isn't it? So Supreme Courts, they are less powerful in comparison to the where there are written Constitution. Written Constitution, generally Supreme Court become more powerful because they are the one who protect the Constitution, right? I hope you got the point here. So Parliament is all supreme here. It is said that the British Parliament is so powerful, they can do whatever they want, except making a man a woman a man. Means they can't change the gender of the people. So those which are godly affair, they can't touch it, but anything which can be done by the human, they can easily do it. So they are so powerful. But anyway, you see, Parliament supremacy is there in United Kingdom, but still we haven't seen any cases where the Parliament has misused the power, isn't it or not? They are true democracy. Why? What is the reason? They are unwritten Constitution. Still their democratic credential is much more powerful than India. Why is it so? Election तो India में भी होता है. Elections, we are conducting very successful election every 5 years, and in that way everything is good. Why? It is unwritten Constitution, but it is more democratic than India. Because of the people. People are highly aware. People are vigilant. They are well educated. They can make the government accountable, isn't it? So people, see, Pakistan is a democracy, but look at the condition of Pakistan. They have written constitution, but look at the constitution. See, so anybody can have the written constitution, right? But the functioning of the constitution depends upon whom? By the people themselves, isn't it? If the people are well aware, they are vigilant, they have the capability to make the government accountable, then the written constitution will work successful. And if the Supreme Court have the guts to, make the government accountable or to make the system accountable, then the written constitution is good. But if the Supreme Court themselves are not functioning well, we can't make the government accountable. That's what we have seen during emergency, isn't it? So during emergency, we have seen, even we had a written constitution, how unconstitutional steps were taken by the government, isn't it or not? So the functioning of the constitution will not determine that it is written or unwritten, but the functioning of the constitution will be determined by the citizens themselves, citizens of the country. If they are more educated, they are more vigilant, they are more empowered, they can make the government accountable, they can make the system accountable. If not, even unwritten constitution can be at flawed. And where you see unwritten, in UK it is unwritten, but still it is functioning so well. New Zealand, it is unwritten, but they are functioning so well, isn't it? Much better than in India, and much better than many more countries who have the written constitution. Okay, isn't it or not? Yes, Sarath, got the idea? The next point you see. The third point, clear distinction between constitution and other law under the written constitution, whereas there is no such distinction under the unwritten law. What does it mean? It means that there is a proper distinction. There is one constitutional law and there is ordinary law, there is some customs, everything must conform to the constitution. So there is constitution law is the one, is the constitution was created by a body called Constituent Assembly, which was created in 1946 December, and finally the constitution was passed in November when it was adopted, and enacted and adopted 26 November 1949 and came into force 26 January 1950, right? So that is how the constitution was made. After that, the Constituent Assembly was dissolved and then it became a parliament, right? Now, whatever the laws made by the parliament, they are called as ordinary law. So there is a distinction. Ordinary law must conform to whom? To the constitution. So there is a distinction between constitution and ordinary law. And customs. Customs are anyway, they are not well codified. Whereas in unwritten constitution, there is no distinction because there is no constitution, isn't it? No written constitution. So whatever the parliament make the laws, some laws they can say, oh, these are very important law, we'll keep it as a constitutional law. These are ordinary law. So there is no proper kind of distinction between constitutional law and ordinary, because there was no separate body like in India we had Constituent Assembly to write a constitution there, right? It is the parliament only which makes the law, right? So there is no distinction between any kind of constitutional law or ordinary law. Anytime the parliament want to declare this law as an important law, they will declare, and anytime they want, okay, this law we want to make changes, amendments, and it is no more a important law or Magna Carta, they can do it and nobody can question them. Of course, if the people are not happy, they will bring down the government. That's all they can do it. Then the next point you see, there is judicial review applies to both legislative and executive action. So wherever there is a written constitution, then the judicial review means, as I said you, it is the judiciary, particularly the Supreme Court, who has given the duty to protect the constitution and fundamental rights of the citizens. Article 13 deals with judicial review, particularly related with the fundamental rights. So neither the law made by the parliament nor the executive action can violate the fundamental rights of the citizens. And if it is done, the judiciary will strike it down. That is called as judicial review. So judicial review is basically where, if law made by the parliament, and if people have some problem with that law, they will take it, they will challenge in where? In the Supreme Court. They will say, they can challenge in the High Court as well as Supreme Court. These are the two main courts, higher courts. So they will say that this law is arbitrary, it goes against the constitution. That is how the people will challenge. Then the Supreme Court will look into the laws, whether it is really violating the constitution. So if it is violating, means null and void. It will declare null and void. What is executive action? So judicial applies to both legislative action as well as executive action, right? Now, executive actions are action or act of the government, the executives. Executive is the one who implements the law. Little bit, just I'll give you a briefing. State has three organs: executive, legislature and judiciary. What is their work? Legislature formulates the law. Or makes the law. And executive, what does the executive does? Implement the laws, isn't it? Implementation of the laws. You will be the part of the executive, right? You are aspiring to become a civil servant, and civil servants are part of what? Executive, implementers of the law. And then judiciary will settle any disputes. If there is any disputes between the citizens and citizens, between citizens and state or government, right? They will, or between state and state, means government and government, means union government, state government, between Karnataka government, Tamil Nadu government, all these kind of, right? So between citizens and citizens, between citizens and government, and between government and government, if there is any disputes, who will settle it? Judiciary. They will arbitrate, right? So these are the work. I hope you got the clarity. Executive, that enforces the law or implement the laws. Now there are two types of executive. Now further, executive are two types. One are your political executive and one is your permanent executive. Permanent executive and political executive. Political executives, they come to the office through a system of election, isn't it? And they are temporary in nature. Means every 5 years they have to again seek election, isn't it or not? So they are the temporary executive, or you can say they are the political executive. They come to the whichever, on the basis of election, they come to the power, they become MPs or MLA, and when they become the ministers, particularly I am talking about the ministers, not all the MPs, MLA, they will become the ministers, isn't it? Among them, few will become the ministers. So ministers are the part of the political executive, including the Prime Minister. They are the political executive. Permanent executive are the civil servants who are appointed, not elected. They are appointed. Appointed, you can write it also. So, permanent executives are the one who are appointed through a system of competitive examination, isn't it? They have to clear the competitive examination. On that basis, later on, they are selected and appointed. And it is a permanent, it's a career service, isn't it? Till they retire, they will be in their job. It is not like temporary one. Till retirement, so that's why they're called as permanent executive. So civil services is a part of your permanent executive. So they are the one who are the implementer of the policy, particularly your permanent executive, they are the implementer of the policies. Okay? Now political executives, in India we have a parliamentary form of government, right? So political executives, they become part of the law making also, isn't it or not? Because the ministers are the one who are there in the parliament to see that the law is passed. So they become the part of the law making and as well as law implementation. Because since they are the ministers, the bureaucrats works under the ministers. Bureaucracy or civil servants, they work under whom? The ministers, right? So in India, the political executives, they are the part of the law making as well as they are the part of the policy execution, right? And civil servants who works under the political executive, they are the part of your policy implementation. So I hope you got understood. Whenever I use the term executive, means it is the policy implementation, and you should know that in what context I am talking about. So judicial review applies to both legislative action, means if the law is invalid or goes against the constitution, and also executive action, means while implementation, if the civil servant or the ministers, anybody has violated people's rights or has done anything wrong, people can approach Supreme Court or High Court. Okay? But no distinction. Yes, judicial review applies only to executive action and not to the parliamentary action. Why? Under the unwritten constitution, the executive action applies only to, why not parliamentary? Because parliament is supreme, isn't it? The parliament is supreme, so nobody can question the parliament. So parliamentary laws, they cannot be questioned. But yes, while implementation, if the executive does anything wrong to the people, then the judiciary can intervene. They will not question the law. But during implementation, if something is going wrong against the laws, or the executive is behaving in an arbitrary manner, then the Supreme Court can provide you the relief. So Supreme Court can provide the relief to the citizens in case of violation by the executive but not by the parliament. If the parliament, suppose parliament makes a very harsh law, can the Supreme Court do anything there? They can't do anything. They can't say that the law is very harsh. It is the people themselves has to protest and get it rectified. In United Kingdom, wherever unwritten is there, people themselves has to rectify, means through protest or whatever. Supreme Court can't do that. But yes, executive action, if that is arbitrary and which is against the law, then they can provide you the relief. Then the relief can be provided. Okay? So judicial review applies only to the executive action, not to the parliamentary action. Got it? Next point. It is enacted. It is evolved. Enacted means written constitution, they have a proper date when it was enacted. There is proper date, time when it was enacted. Like Indian constitution was enacted and adopted on 26th November 1949. Came into force 26th January 1950. Isn't it or not? So there is a proper day, timing and all when the constitution was enacted. Means it took 3 years almost. The Indian constitution took 3 years to get it enacted finally. So we have a systematic day and timing. That is called enacted. When we know when it was enacted, when it was adopted, when it was enforced. But under unwritten constitution, it is called an evolved constitution. Evolved constitution. Why it is called as evolved constitution? Because there is no particular day and timing, isn't it? So like Magna Carta, they say, you know, Magna Carta was enacted in 12,015, 13th century AD. So in that way, some important laws, they will bracket it as a constitutional law, right? So it is an evolved over a period of time. Got it? It is evolved over period of time. Some important acts, they are being termed as more important, like they are referred as like a constitutional act. Okay? Because there is no one particular day when the constitution was enacted, because there is no one legal document. There is no one particular law, isn't it? So that's why it is called as evolved. I hope you understood. The next point you see, rigid or flexible. So this I am talking in terms of amendability. Amendability of the constitution. So for example, Indian constitution. Indian constitution is, for example, I will give you the example of, first let's take US. US, it is very rigid. The amending procedure is very rigid. In India, some rigid, some flexible. Some constitutional aspect can be changed in a very flexible manner. US, it is very bit rigid. Sri Lankan constitution, if you see the Sri Lankan constitution, it is little more flexible to amend or bring changes. Amendment means bring changes. So the written, these all are written constitution. US, India, Sri Lanka, these all are written constitution. So some constitution there will be very rigid to make changes, like US. It requires higher majority, means more number of people should approve, and then state should also approve. Then it will become, then the changes will be incorporated or amendment. We will see, we'll do in detail later on when we'll do the amendment procedure. In India, some constitutional aspect can be done in a simple majority is required, making changes, like number of judges in the Supreme Court, and even changing name, area boundaries of the states. It can be done through simple majority, and state permission is also not required. So these changes can be easily done. Some changes like changes in fundamental rights, DPSP, fundamental duties, then the parliament requires higher majority, 2/3 majority. Then there are some changes like, for example, GST. When GST was brought, goods and services tax, or when Panchayati Raj and Municipalities Act was brought, such changes require even more higher majority. Means higher majority in the sense 2/3 majority in the parliament, and then it has to be ratified by the states. State permission is also required. Half of the state should give permission. Then only the act will come into force, right? So there are some rigid, some flexible way to make changes in the Indian Constitution. In detail we will do in the amendment chapter. US, so all the constitutional laws they have to be ratified by the states. So it is bit difficult. So that's why the amendment in US, there is hardly, I think, some 20 amendments has been done, very less amendment. But India, you see, 106 amendment. And though US constitution came into force in 1789, Indian constitution came force in 1950. In spite of that, we had so many amendments than the US constitution. What does it signify? Rigid or flexible, right? So our is comparatively more flexible in compared to US. But Sri Lankan, it is even more flexible to amend. Now, under unwritten, it is always flexible, always, because there is no written constitution as such. Any constitutional law, suppose the Great Charter, they have said that it will be treated as a very important law, like a constitutional law. But any time the parliaments wants to bring any changes, they can do it. They don't require higher majority, this majority, that majority. And since it is not a federal state, it don't need permission of the state also. It is a unitary government, right? Federal, UK. UK is a unitary. There is no division of power between center and state. It's a small country and it is a unitary in nature. So always flexible. Neither Supreme Court can create any problem for them, isn't it? In our case, even Supreme Court can create a trouble if it is not proper. Got it? So that's why the amendability of bringing changes in written constitution, it could be rigid, it could be flexible, but under unwritten, it is always flexible. Right? So these are the points of distinctions between written and unwritten constitutions. Provisions are codified in the legal document, supremacy of constitution, clear distinction between constitution and other laws. Judicial reviews applies to both legislative and executive action. It is enacted, and in terms of amendability, it could be rigid or flexible. Whereas unwritten constitution, it is not codified in single legal document. Supremacy of parliament is there wherever unwritten constitution is there. No distinction between constitutional law and other laws. Judicial reviews applies only to the executive action. It is an evolved constitution, and amendability is always flexible. So look at one question. This is a sample question. How many of the following statement are not true? How many of the following statement are not true about the written constitution? It is non-enacted constitution. US has the first written constitution. Judicial review applies only to executive action under written constitution. Choose the correct option, A, B, C, D. C. C. Sarath, you tell me. Guys, read the statement very carefully. What is your answer? Tell me. 1. According to you, C. Sarath? Sarath also 1. You see, it is non-enacted constitution. So it is not true. Not true. Not true means, see, US, this is wrong. United States has the first written constitution. This statement is correct. Judicial review applies only to executive action under written. This is also wrong. How many, they are asking, how many statements are correct and incorrect? So this statement is only correct and this is incorrect, this is incorrect. So how many statements are incorrect? 2. So answer is your B. Answer is B. Got the point? Read the question carefully. See, that is how I always say. Yes, Sandhya, you got understood or not? They are asking not true. Not true means incorrect statement, right? How many? They are incorrect. What does it mean? How many of the statement are incorrect? So you go one by one. Non-enacted constitution, incorrect. It is an enacted one, we know that. United States first written, yes, it is a first written constitution, right? And then judicial review applies only to executive action. No, applies to both legislative and executive. So this statement is also incorrect. So how many? Not true. Two statements. Two statements are not true. So answer should be B. Got the point? Yes, Sarat? So this is how you see, this is how we know we will be doing, we'll be solving more number of questions. After every topic, we should try to solve at least some question, so that you will, your learning outcome and how much you are paying attention and how carefully you are reading the statement, you will come to know. It's okay, it's your first class, you can make mistakes, no problem, but then try to be more attentive. ठीक है? Be more attentive in your class. And so tomorrow we'll see how the constitution has in India, the evolution of the constitution. We will see from the during the British period only how the constitution has come into being, and then the our original constitution, the Indian constitution. We'll see the evolution or historical underpinnings of the Indian constitution. We'll see then the making of Indian constitution. We will go into the important features of the Indian constitution, and then we will start with the union territories and all. Part 1, part 2, part 3, we will move on. Okay, so please study in this manner. All right, all the best.